Hi, welcome to Enter the Bunker, where we launch you into thriving. Each week we talk about a different virtue that can be used as a building brick to build your own personal bunkers. We share personal stories, as well as tips and tricks to help you thrive instead of survive. So sit down, relax, and enter the bunker.
Hello, and welcome to Enter the Bunkers Part 2, Building Brick Moderation. We're going to go over tips to live life in moderation. I'm Kelly.
And I'm Jonathan.
And let's get to it.
Learning how to be moderate.
Learning how to be moderate. There is no doubt that modern life promotes pleasure seeking and the idea that having more will equal more happiness. The problem is that it ignores the idea that the more you do something, the more you need to do it in order to get the same satisfaction. This leads to doing things more to achieve the same feeling. This is why moderation is the key. Here are some times to allow moderation in aspects of your life. 1, work. 2, diet. 3, alcohol. And 4, technology. So let's go over each one individually. So the first one was work. Mm-hmm. Your boss won't want to hear this, but it is important for you to remember that you work to live, not live to work. When it comes down to it, your job is the only part of what makes you and should never be the defining characteristic of what you are. There are many other things in life worth being proud of that also require the same focus, discipline, and attention. It is important to balance out all aspects of your life and not spend too much time on just one portion.
So,
yeah.
It looks like you have some thought.
Well, I don't know. I agree with it, but I don't know. Work for me is I don't know. I guess I have a good balance of moderation between work and life because I feel like I work my butt off for work, but I don't. And sometimes it might feel overwhelming, and again, the next day, like I said, you might have an overwhelming day, but then the next day you got to talk to yourself and make it more moderate because yesterday was chaos and you don't want every day to be like that. But at the same time, I think life's pretty, I think work for me is pretty, what moderation? What's that word I'm trying to find? It's not the right word. Moderation. Balance. Yes, that's it. There we go.
So when we say, remember that you work to live, not live to work.
Yeah.
That's something that the truth is that when you have a joy in your work, and we've talked about that building brick, is that when you do have that incorporated into your work,
you don't work a day in your life.
Then you don't work a day in your life. That's right. Yeah. So when there's joy in your work, you'll never work a day in your life. Yeah. And that's what I believe when it comes to work is when you incorporate moderation. It's not necessarily that you're going to work harder. It's that you just have so much joy in it that it becomes. It's not necessarily that you're living to work, right? But you do. It is something that's important if you do have joy with it, right? Yeah. There's a lot of people that go through life where they do work to live. Yeah. Right. And that's unfortunate because they can't have joy in it. Right. Yeah. That's the mindset. So I think that with work, it doesn't define everything you are, obviously, right. but to live to work is something that we are as human beings, that we do want to be able to put joy and build things and create things and so on. Right. Mm-hmm. It's just how it's attached to our living, and what form that takes, whether you're in business or whether you're working for somebody, that's going to make the difference in terms of how it's approached. Right. So somebody who's an entrepreneur, for example, or they have their own business, a lot of what they're doing is going to be, a lot of it is it's their life to work.
But maybe so they can live a more moderate life in the future.
Yes, it's almost like it's basically an investment,
right? Yeah.
So they're going to go at it and they're going to put a lot into it, knowing that there's going to be this light at the end of the tunnel, sort of thing, right? And the truth is that everybody has different circumstances where they're at. But when it comes to moderation, which we're talking about here, in your work, I think that you can gain more you just need to have more perspective in terms of, yes, you're not depending on your circumstance. I would say you work to live. If you work to live, then I would say look at what you're doing and try to change it to where you do live to work.
Right.
As part of your life, but not necessarily your entire life.
Yeah.
Right. Because there's a lot more dimensions to who you are and what you do and whatnot. But I don't think it should be discredited.
Right.
Whoops. Windows interrupting our conversation.
Bad Windows. Okay, number 2, diets. Many fad diets place extreme restrictions on what you can and cannot eat. Not only is that not sustainable, it isn't healthy. It also leads to failure in most cases. Deprivation is never the answer. The same that complete indulgence is never the answer. Take chocolate, for example. If you completely deprive yourself of it, eventually the craving will be so strong that you cave and eat an excess of chocolate. Not great for the diet. Indulging in moderation allows you to create healthy, sustainable habits which will only benefit you and lead to longer-term successes.
So I'm a yo-yo dieter, so I know all about this.
Yes, I remember you've talked about this.
So I've seen, every fad diet and all the different kinds of diets you could do and whatnot. And eventually I found that when it comes to what we're talking about here with moderation in your diet, you deprive yourself too much and then you're going to break down. And again, this comes back to the attitude you have towards the diet that you maintain. And it has to be something. And the problem with a lot of diets, like we're talking about here, is that you get into this, I'm going to eat this, I'm going to do that, and I'm going to follow this. But you can only do that for so long until you start to break down, and then you go back to the ways you were eating before and whatnot. And so it requires a change in attitude towards food, towards your lifestyle. And if you can do that, then you can have something sustainable. But the fad diets where it's like, just eat a lot of cabbage, have cabbage soup every day and you'll lose weight and stuff like this, right? Yeah. It's like, I hate cabbage now. Right? So that's what happens, right?
Yeah.
But I've found, me personally, and maybe some people will, find this helpful. I found that the best diet regimens that I've been on have been where I took a very strict approach throughout the week, knowing that on Saturdays was my quote unquote off day, right? Where it was just no holds bars. Yeah. I will eat whatever I want and as much as I want, which my wife really hated. Because I would just like, if I was going to get into ice cream, I wouldn't just have a nice little bowl of ice cream. I will have a mountain sundae, or something like that. And it was like, I can eat chocolate today. I won't just eat a chocolate bar. I will eat I'm getting all this chocolate. I would go crazy,
right?
Like completely not moderate. It was literally like a day of just like, there's a word for it. Just gluttony. That's the word. Gluttony. Yes. It was just, and I would only do that one day a week.
Yeah.
And some people were just like, well, you just blew your whole diet doing that. But that's not what happened. So what would happen is that, I would eat a lot and it would be like mega calories.
Yeah.
But because I was so moderate throughout the rest of the week, the body responds by going, what is all this junk? Get it out of here.
So it gets it out quick.
Yeah. Instead of storing it.
Yep.
Right. Which is what causes people to gain weight, is that they're just storing the energy all the time. Right.
Yeah.
So your body is just like, okay, we've got this constant here. And then we just got this overload.
Yeah.
Let's get rid of it. And so then for the next day or two, my weight went up a little bit, but then the day after that, it came right back down.
Right.
And then went further. Right.
Right.
So I found it very effective. And, that's one way to do it. And when you have that one day where, you don't have to be like bound to a particular regiment of eating certain things, and you just, you crave that chocolate, you crave all that kind of stuff, like, I'm going to have it on Saturday.
Yep.
And then it becomes exciting too, because you're just like looking forward to it.
Right. Yeah. So I've heard of people doing this before too, and they've called it a cheat day.
Yeah. I don't like calling it that though.
That's what I was getting to. So my mom actually, was it her who said it? Anyways, they said to call it a reward day.
Yeah.
Because, and then you sitting here, you're like smiling, you're talking about it, you're pumped. You're so pumped for Saturday. So why wouldn't you call it a reward day? Instead of tricking your brain and being like, if you call it a cheat day all day Saturday, you're gonna be like, I'm cheating, eating this whole bag of chips, and it's going to make you feel crappier. So why not give yourself something good to think about, and it's a reward day.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you're still in a happy mood, and you're back into your moderation throughout the rest of the week, like you said.
Exactly. And it makes it easier because, again, you had that moment, you're going to be able to have it again.
You don't feel like you're going to die. You're like, I only have to wait till Saturday until I can eat chips.
Yeah, exactly.
Or ice cream.
Exactly. You get all into the chips and whatnot. So
you
like probably
get
this like giant bag and just,
I get like the family size ones.
Family size. Oh my God.
Okay. Number 3, alcohol. Having a glass of wine with dinner can offer certain health benefits, such as reducing your risk of heart disease. However, drinking to excess can bring a whole bunch of health problems. It's okay to have the glass of wine. It may even be good for you, but it's important to be aware to keep your consumption below the level where risks outweigh the benefits. So, fun fact, speaking of wine, saying it's good for you. When my mom, she was overdue with me and my brother, I'm not sure which one it was, but she was overdue with both of us. And the doctor actually told her to go home, have a bath, and drink a glass of wine to try to start labor.
Wow.
Yeah.
Really?
A glass of wine. I was like, what? And now, like, I've heard other people say, like, oh, certain wines good, like red wine's supposed to be like good for you, like heart disease and stuff like that too. But
yeah,
again, moderation. That's where that
moderation.
Comes in.
Yeah, because then next thing you know, people go out and buy a big bottle and say, "Woo,
no more heart disease for me."
Yeah, but I think, well, number one, I can't really speak to this very much because I don't drink alcohol.
Correct.
At all.
Yeah,
I've never had a drop in my life.
Yeah,
and that's by choice.
Yep.
But I think that, like, when it talks about outweighing the risks, it's really quite scary, actually, just how little the public knows about the risks of alcohol and how many diseases are attached to alcohol.
Yeah.
And to be a moderate with alcohol, alcohol in our society is considered almost like a social staple.
Yeah.
Right. Like, people expect to have a drink together.
Yeah.
Right. And and when you say drink together, the immediate assumption is alcohol.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Whereas, in other countries, the staple might be coffee,
right?
An espresso,
or if you're going out for that here, you specifically say, "Hey, you want to go for coffee?"
Yeah, exactly.
You specifically say,
and
coffee.
In some places, it's even tea. Like, especially in some cultures where it's like you have tea together. So yeah, in terms of excess, again, when it comes to alcohol, you want to be very moderate.
Yeah.
And for some people, they have a genetic disposition to where they can't handle it. As soon as they've got that little bit, they have a genetic disposition to where they're just going to keep going and going and going, and then they can't stop themselves. That's when you get into alcoholism, right?
Yeah.
So, so when it comes to alcohol, if you definitely want to be able to be as moderate as possible. I'm speaking as somebody though who has never drank alcohol.
Right. So I have. I noticed it more so in older men, but I'm not saying this is older men aren't obviously the only alcoholics out there. But I'll be in town sometimes and I'll be shopping and I'll see this older man and his face will be as red as your sweater. And I don't know why, but the first thing that pops in my head is that they're an alcoholic and that they have high blood pressure. So drink your alcohol in moderation, so when you get old, your face isn't as red as a cherry and you don't have high blood pressure.
There you go. There's the health warning. The Kelly health warning.
So one of them, yeah.
Okay.
Anyways, no, that's just like I noticed that in people, like their faces are so red, and it's because of alcoholism. Yep. Like I know that too. So, okay, number 4 is technology. Ooh. Technology is great. It is what is allowing us to be able to share with your friends on our building bricks. It has brought many innovations and provides us with access to tons of information. But like everything else, too much technology can be a very bad thing. When your use of technology interferes with and eventually impairs our interpersonal relationships and productivity, it is important to moderate your use of technology. So my phone tells me every Sunday, on average, how much I was on my phone per week.
Okay.
And last week, it was only like 2 hours a day. But I wasn't on it a lot. Like, it might have been like an hour and 41 minutes. But I wasn't on it a lot because I wasn't, But it's nice having that because next week I know what I'm going to get. I'm going to be like, oh crap, I'm up. But it's like, it's going to make me want to beat the previous week and get it down even further, I think. But also it depends on what you're doing that week too, if you're using your phone a lot.
Yeah. I do a lot of business on my phone.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I use it. I find myself using my phone more and more as a source of information as well. So
I know, Google it.
Yeah.
I do that all the time.
And on top of that, I understand what we're talking about here when it comes to moderation, especially when it comes to the time when we're with family and when we're with others and when we're socializing.
Yes.
There's so often it's become a new social dynamic that has to be learned by some people to not take out their phones while they're in the middle of a conversation or something.
Right. Yeah.
And it's if you're not mindful of that, then it could become a very bad habit that can cause a lot of disruption. But in terms of talking about technology is great, and there's too much technology can be a very bad thing. Well, there's some people who don't agree with that.
Yeah.
Because there's actually a very won't call them a fringe movement, but a very strong movement that believes that the next evolution for people is to actually move into technology.
I think certain types of technology can be a bad thing, depending on what you're doing with it. I don't think, I think if you're going to sit there and doom scroll on Facebook, that can be a very bad thing. Yes. But if you're going to sit there and educate yourself, or you're working on something, or you're doing, how is that a bad thing? Like, really, it's not.
Well, I think for some people, they think that, I think in that circumstance, it depends on the time you're allotting to it. If it's time that you otherwise would be spending, talking to your kids or something, then that's interfering with things, right?
Yeah.
But I think that if you can just be mindful of, spending time with others and not spending so much time with the technology, then I think that it's a moderation thing. Yeah, you just have to be mindful of it. And I think that there's times that you win at it and times you lose. Some people put very, very strong guidelines around how much screen time they'll have.
I was just going to say, when we're going to talk about kids and stuff and their technology time.
And how much time they can spend on it and whatnot. Some people feel like they have to put those limits in. Others feel like they need to learn for themselves. I think everyone's going to be different in terms of how they approach that.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't recommend a one size fits all approach to, the end all be all. You should only have them have 1 hour screen time a day.
Everyone's different. Everyone's
yeah. So
do what's best for you.
Yeah. But also be mindful of just, spending time together is just as important in terms of their development. When we're talking about kids anyway, but also in the development of our relationships with others. There's a huge difference when you have a Zoom call than to face-to-face.
Yeah.
Huge difference. And it's not just the fact that, because a lot of people, it's not just the fact that you're able to gain more from being in their presence. The Zoom call, you would say, because there's three kinds of communication. There's the word, right? There's the tone, and then there's body language, right? And you would think with a Zoom call, you're getting all three.
Yeah.
So why is it that when you meet face to face, different?
You're not getting full body language in a Zoom call.
Yeah, because it's two dimensional, right? Like it's on the screen, it's not in front of you. But I believe,
tell me.
I believe there's more to it than that. We're only just starting to skim the surface in terms of what we understand about our biology.
Yep.
And who we are as people. People are starting to as they're examining how our bodies behave and whatnot, we're discovering that it's far more complicated than what we're seeing on the surface.
Right.
The way that organisms are behaving within our systems, and the way that our even the way that we respond to our environment. On the biological level, I think that there's actually something that happens when we get into the presence of others. And I don't think it's even something that we know how to register yet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We don't know how to measure it. And I think that's why science is so frustrated with the prospects that there's another kind of way that we're communicating with each other that they can't measure.
Yeah.
Right. Which is I mean, that's what science is supposed to be about, is about being able to measure and be able to analyze and everything else. And so when you introduce the idea of something that you can't analyze and measure, it's very offensive to them.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that when we're in the presence of each other, like when we're in the presence of other people like this, there's an unseen communication that is not just happening in what we're speaking or or our tonality or our body language, but our biology is actually communicating with each other.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. In a way that we are not even aware consciously. And I think that this actually is how we even communicate health of our bodies. Right. I think that there's certain things that happen, like our bodies give off like signals.
Pheromones.
Well, it's not you could call it pheromones are one thing.
Yeah.
But we give off these pheromones are like, actually, like you can measure that.
Yeah. Yeah. You can.
But we give off signals to each other in a way that some people call it vibration. Right. And so, because like how often have you like met somebody, you only knew them for like you only just met them and you're just like, yeah, I like the vibe I got from them.
Well, like even you've heard me say like, I feel like I can read people before they even talk.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So I know exactly what you're saying here. I'm like, yeah.
So I think that there's more to it in terms of like, what a lot of people are willing to consider as what's going on. I think there is, and the more, especially over the last couple of years, where everybody's become a doctor in like how viruses and biology works. But the more I've deep dived into this, and the more I've started to like hear doctors who are doing studies and things that are largely been disregarded by the establishment, the more I'm starting to see like, wow, there's this whole other level that some people are beginning to discover, but we're not even close to even figuring out how it works.
Right.
We're only just beginning to come up with working models that explain these things that science itself is so far from being able to explain. They have these theories, the whole idea of germ theory is a theory, right? Yeah. And there's actually like the scientific evidence behind it is actually not very clear.
Yeah.
So, but then when you come up with another model that is a different kind of theory that actually explains things better, that's what science is all about, right? So in terms of, right back to technology, in terms of like, again, when it comes to screen time and it comes to like how we interact with technology, the problem we have with using technology with communication is that level of vibration, like that's what I'm referring to now,
it's it
doesn't happen. And then we don't get that connection. And that's why everybody has this sense of like not connecting, even when they're online, right? Like they're online and they chat and it's this and that, but then they didn't really connect.
Right. Yeah.
So I think that that's what's happening. And so you need to remove the technology and have more FaceTime. Yeah. Right. I know that's like not the thing right now. Well, it's getting there.
Yeah, it's getting there.
But the thing is that we need to have more FaceTime. The idea of everything's online and we'll just meet online, you never really establish those connections with those people. Right. And it just becomes a barrier to forming the trust and forming the relationships that really have long sustainability and whatnot.
Yeah. I felt like I got everything you just said. All right. Well, no, it was good. Like, I like it. Okay. Thank you guys all so much for joining us for part 2 of Moderation. Stay tuned for next week's Building Brick, which is humanity, and we'll see you there.
We'll see you there.
Thank you for listening to Enter the Bunker. Make sure to follow us on Instagram where you can share your story and also look at behind the scenes of how we make our podcast. You can watch the video version of this podcast on YouTube by simply searching Enter the Bunker. Tune in next time as we launch into thriving.